Good afternoon. Can you all hear me? So nice to see so many people here on what for an upper Midwestern guy like me is the nicest day we're going to have for 4 or 5 months. So. I'm Ken Varnum, and I have a couple of roles. I'm at the University of Michigan Library, where I manage our discovery layer. So I do a lot of project management and work with developers, user research people. And in this context of this particular talk, I am co-chair of the Open Discovery Initiative, and I'll talk a bit more about that group in just a moment. I'm joined up here on stage by Teresa Hazen and Bobby Patham, who are colleagues on the NISO Open Discovery Initiative. They'll say a few words about themselves when they get up. And 3 people who were involved in this research but who are not here at Charleston are Rachel Kessler, my co-chair, Julie Zhu, and Jay Holloway, who were instrumental in helping form the research and analyze the research. So I want to make sure I give them proper credit. So just a reminder of the conference's code of conduct. I'm sure you've seen it before, and you'll probably see it again, but just do take note of that. And of course, you can scan the QR code for the full policy and so forth. So what are we going to do today? We're going to be spending a bit of time, a little bit of time just talking about what the Open Discovery Initiative is about and why we think we matter. We hope you agree. And then we're going to talk a bit about this survey we did. Now, it's getting on a year ago, and the white paper that was published this summer based on those findings. Teresa and Bobby are going to talk about the findings for libraries and content providers particularly. I'm going to give a bit of overview of the methodology and some of the high-level things. But first, I would love it if you would take a very short version of that survey and give us your opinions. What are your hopes and fears about generative AI in library discovery products? And whether you're a librarian or a content provider or just a really interested person who wandered into the wrong building, please do take it out. It'll take just a few minutes. The QR code is there. It's also at tinyurl.com/ODI-AI-survey. So while that is up, in case you haven't had a chance to grab it, I will talk a little bit more about what NISO is, or what NISO Open Discovery Initiative is. It was founded about, it's getting on 15 years ago now, at another sea change in the way libraries and the licensed content that they provide to their campuses, to their communities, was undergoing another sea change with the rise of these giant, huge, innovative, and how could they go innovative to outdated web-scale discovery services? So things like Summon, like Primo Central, now the Central Discovery Index, EBSCO Discovery Service. These tools, when they arose, a lot of people didn't know what was happening, didn't know how they were functioning, didn't understand the context, and so NISO ODI was created out of conversations around those concerns to help provide some transparency so that librarians and content providers could understand more clearly with the discovery service provider partners what was going on, what was being indexed, how it was moving around, what did I see if I licensed a product and licensed that product, what was the end result of all of that. So as I said, we've been around since about 2011 as a formal NISO product, a NISO working group. We released a recommended practice and have revised the recommended practice. And I've been with the group through both of those processes. We'll see if I make it to a 3rd revision. And this basically kind of just highlights the committee's goals. We are trying to help libraries understand when they license full text content, when they license abstracting and indexing service content, what it is they're getting directly from that vendor, and what it is from that vendor that makes its way into the discovery platform of choice, no matter which vendor it is. It provides some guidelines, some very loose standardization for content providers and discovery providers to share metadata and text back and forth so that it's not just the complete Wild West, it's constrained to a smaller area, and we recommend a handful of various standards and guidelines for moving metadata around in ways that are probably already being done for other purposes, so as not to reinvent the wheel. We looked at models for fair linking from the discovery provider to the full text This, of course, was and I think still is a point of some interest, especially among our content provider colleagues, who want to make sure that the content they are creating is actually accessed and used, and not masked in, vendor A's metadata leads to vendor B's full text, or vendor B's metadata is not necessarily a good thing, and this helps to establish some principles around that. And finally, we helped to try to set a floor, and it's probably a very low floor because it's a complex topic, around usage statistics. How you can count and record access to metadata, access to full text, so that all the people in the ecosystem have a fair chance of understanding what is going to be, how usage is measured and how to see what that usage is. I won't read the roster, but here's the members of the current members of the Open Discovery Initiative. 3 of us are here on stage. We are actually just going to be sending out a call for volunteers to serve on the committee. So if you are interested, whether you're a librarian or a content provider, and you think you have something to contribute, and we are especially trying to bolster our knowledge, practical knowledge about artificial intelligence. So if you have that as a hobby or an actual profession, please consider talking to us. We would love to have you join the group. So with that as an introduction, I am going to, before I introduce them, I'm going to read my notes. And I realized that I wanted to just, a little bit more about the survey and what we wanted to find. As I mentioned, this feels a lot like the early days of web-scale discovery, when everything is changing and nothing is clear, and it's just a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt all over the place. And so we were just curious to know what people were thinking. What were their actual fears? I know I had a lot of concerns. I have a lot of hopes about what it could do for research, for the scholarly record. But we wanted to get a sense of what the landscape looked like a year ago. So we announced a survey. We asked people a handful of questions about what they were looking forward to and what they were concerned about from the various perspectives. We hoped for feedback and responses from people who self-identified as being on the library side of the industry, on the content provider, both A&I and full text side of the industry, and the web-scale discovery side of the industry. And we came up with some things that we thought were likely to be concerns and likely to be hopes in this area. But then we also asked people to describe in their own words what those things were. The survey, that if you took it, is largely those kind of preset options with a few amendments. And then we are not going to do another free text one, although you're welcome to come up and talk to us afterwards and tell us what it is. We ended up with about 220 responses. The majority of those came from people identifying as being on the library side of the industry, about 170. Another 40 or so self-identified as being part of content providers. And then there were a handful of others who were identified either as representing or working for, having some affiliation with web-scale discovery. However, those numbers were so small, and the other responses were also fairly small, we just kind of collapsed those into another category. We're not going to be talking much about those at all today because the numbers are just so small, we didn't think that they were very, very instructive or helpful. So we are here today about the library side and the content provider side. With that, I'm going to pass it along to Teresa to talk about libraries. And at the end, I'm going to, if technology works, share the slide, what you said, just a quick snapshot of what it was you told us. Go ahead, Teresa.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm Teresa Hazen, and I am the department head of collection services at the University of Arizona, and I've been part of the ODI group for about 7 years now. So that's just another plug. I think if you join the group, you'll find people that are really dedicated, and there's a lot of longevity. I'm going to talk a little bit about the librarians, which were the largest respondents of the survey and predictably had a lot to say. But first of all, there was a screening question, and the screening question was in the last month, how frequently have you used web scale, generative AI tools such as ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot? So this was to really get that screening question, so we could then dig deeper a little bit into the information. So this is from the white paper, and as you can see, the highest percentages are once or twice in the past month, or never, which is interesting that this was a year ago, and how we will likely see something different in this audience when we look at your results. This is a little bit different snapshot of that, which is this slide just reports the usage in the past month across all respondent types by percentage. And remember, librarian responses were the highest, and so you can see that that the once or twice in a month is the highest used. So that was an interesting finding. So next, the survey sort of bifurcated depending on how you self-identified, as Ken talked about, whether you're from the library side, content provider, and discovery provider side. Though recall we've collapsed the discovery provider, and well, we've kind of put those aside, and are just going to focus on library and content provider. And so this library-specific question that we asked is, has your library started researching the tools and features in your discovery layers related to AI? And I was like, yay, librarians. A year ago, some of these tools, such as Research Assistant and EBSCO's tool and the OCLC Book Recommender tool, were sort of really in their, kind of just coming on or in beta. And it's a pretty significant amount of folks who responded, yes, I have been starting to poke around and play with this and research this. So this was what we found that from about a year ago. And then this is the question of what are your hopes for generative AI? And so how the survey was constructed is we gave people, I think it's 9 or 10 choices, and we asked them to rank them. So that means analyzing the results can be a little tricky when you're asking people to rank. So I'm using the average ranking for this presentation, which is highlighted in the green. And so to graph that, the lower the number, the higher the ranking. And so I thought that this chart was helpful, that the closer you are to the center, the higher, so like to the bullseye, the more your hope, the higher your hope for this. And so some of those hopes include efficient content summarization, improved visibility of content, saving researcher time, and more accurate content recommendations. And so then as you go out from that circle, some of the things that were identified by respondents as that they were not as hopeful that AI would help within these discovery layers was saving staff time, better usage analytics, and enhanced user engagement. And then just to talk a little bit about the other category, some of the raw text that we did gather that folks entered when they had hopes included instant translations into the required languages, easy creation of citations, finding, exploring connections within a result set, enhanced brainstorming to increase creativity, expanded content recommendations based on initial finding research, on research findings. So, some people also, even though it was in the hopes, we got several that said, not interested. I don't really have any hopes for AI, just fears that it will raise costs of products and produce really bad results. I don't have hopes because I don't think that there needs to be an application of AI in discovery services. So remember, this was September, October 2024. So moving on to fears, same thing. We asked folks to rank about 10 different statements of what what people feared the most. And so we took the average rankings and I graphed it in a similar way. I'm sorry if it's not super visible, and I used black because it's fears, and, and a red bullseye in the middle. So some of the top fears include misrepresentation or fabrication of content. That makes a ton of sense. Quality of the AI-generated summaries. Not as many respondents ranked impact on traditional metrics or copyright infringement or diminished reproducibility of results, which I find interesting, that last one, because that might be different now. So some of the other contents for fear includes, I think when I scanned through and preparing for this presentation, I think the most I saw was the environmental impact, was people's fears. Several in various iterations listing that, which I think really does speak to at least most librarians I know care about these things. Cost was another one, which I don't see that yet, but I think it is definitely a fear of mine that that's coming. Oh, here's this great tool, but now it's going to cost you that your students now want. Retrieval bias and further diminishing students' critical thinking skills. So those were some of the fears that showed up in other in relation to the survey. So this one is I'll go through this a little more quickly. This is the value of Gen AI features for staff and end users. So what we did is we asked respondents the same set of three questions, but we said, okay, tell us what you think the value is for users and tell us what the value you see for staff. So those three questions we asked summarizes the content of a single article item, synthesizes the content of multiple articles in a summary, and provides a bibliography of resources. And so how I've elected to show this to you are side-by-side respondents saying, this is what I think is the benefit of this particular thing you asked me about to staff as well as users. And I think you can see in this way summarizes the content of a single article or item. People were pretty positive about this for both staff and for users, though you can see significantly increase, the value significantly increases for users over staff. So makes sense. The second one is synthesizes the content of multiple articles in a summary. I think, once again, respondents that were from libraries felt that the benefits were going to be for users over staff predominantly. I think that makes sense. And then the third one, around bibliography, looks pretty positive. I think respondents thought that users would see the value more, but that there wouldn't be as much of a downside. So that's for those. And then we asked if your library has provided information resources for its user community on how to use Gen AI tools. And yes is 60, but the rest, which is something's in process, no, or I don't know, is far higher. And I really do believe this would probably be very much of a sea change this year if you ask that question, just looking at folks' websites. So some of the issues, so that this is another question we asked, is what is addressed, what issues are addressed in your AI principles, policy statements, and the most common ones were things such as like basic information was the highest. Makes sense, it was a year ago. List of tools, ethics, citing, guidance, definitions. The things that were not as much present were more of the deeper dive into Gen AI related to discovery, around copyright, around guidance for teaching, kind of contractual information, guidance for authors and people wanting to publish within your institution. I do think that was a snapshot in time, and those were less prevalent. So this one, I kind of had to laugh. How many of you attended the AI bot and repository session this morning? Yeah, which was really provocative and interesting. For those of you who didn't, it would be worth a look at the recording. So does your organization disallow crawling of your content for web search? So you can see that there's a pretty high percentage, I don't know, they didn't know. Or they're like, no, we don't disallow it. I think that would be very, very different in this environment. And my last question was that we asked was, what were your expectations for ODI? I think this goes back to what Ken talked about in his nice intro of we were really why ODI formed, which was really like the prevalence of all of a sudden these web scale discovery tools and like, oh my gosh, we have to get a handle on this. We're sort of in the same place, and so what are the things that you want ODI to be thinking about? And those are, you can see here things around helping where those services are used in discovery layer, how the content is summarized and synthesized, source attribution, results ranking. Those are the things that you told, not you, but the respondents told the survey and ODI that's what you wanted us to work on. So that concludes the librarian portion of it, and I'm going to turn it over to Bobby to talk about the content provider survey results. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. I'm too short. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bobby Patham, Discovery Services Manager from Springer Nature. And this session will pull you through sleep, especially after lunch, and with all the statistics that you have seen. And I hope you all stay awake, especially after this US election. And I will make this session as caffeinated as possible. Okay. Gosh. Okay. So starting with the AI joke, okay? Why did the AI go to therapy? Okay. So because it had too many deep learning issues. Okay, I hear some laugh. So I'm here to talk about this. Oh, you see the next slide? Okay. Talk about the content provider's perspective. As Ken mentioned in the earlier slide, total 224 responders, 170 from library responders, and then 43 content providers, and then 11 other from the discovery service responders. So we asked the publishers, content providers, whether they had started exploring the generative AI features in the discovery services in their library use. I know I don't see many content providers here, but it's okay. I'm going to still talk about the content provider perspective. So the responses were evenly divided. So you can see in the next slide, 50% responded yes, and then 50% responded no. And the next one is what do content providers hope for from AI in discovery? So improved visibility of the content are the most important hope, and then also most accurate content recommendations, that's the second most important hope. Saving staff time, enhanced user engagement, better usage analytics, these moderate or medium priority hope. And efficient content summarization, lower priority hope. Saving researcher time, least priority hope for the content providers. That's so many, I'm going to skip some. So, and then the next one is about what do content providers fear for AI discovery? And as shown in the figure here, copyright infringement and the misrepresentation or fabrication of content emerged as the top two fears, both with the average scores below 2.5 and also the concerns about the data privacy and AI summary quality were also notable, you can see, and fears such as impact on metrics and reproducibility were of modern concern, while customer service issues ranked very lowest. And then we asked the content providers, how do you foresee that AI tools in discovery services will affect the visibility of your content? So the AI tools that summarize, provide bibliographies, or enhanced metadata are generally seen as boosting content visibility, whereas synthesizing multiple articles has more mixed perceptions with some concern about decreasing the visibility. And the next one is that we also asked the content providers, how do you foresee that AI tools in discovery services will affect the user to your content? And this summarizes the single article of the item, most responders. There are 12 that believe it increases access. Synthesis multiple article into summary responses are mixed. And then set it increases. It also provides a bibliography of related resources. Majority 16 believe it increases access, enhances metadata for an article, and it also increases access. So AI tools that summarize a single article, provide bibliographies, or enhance metadata are generally expected to improve user access, whereas synthesizing multiple articles shows more mixed or negative perceptions. Okay, the next one, like I said, so many statistics. It's going to be a little bit boring. So we asked the content provider, has your organization published an AI principle policy statements? Half of the organization have public AI principles, and nearly a quarter have internal policies, and a smaller portion either they don't have a policy or still developing one. And as you can see, I don't have to read everything. You can see the Springer Nature, like I can talk about Springer Nature, right? So has dedicated AI page that includes AI for communities. We have an AI approach. We have AI principles, and we also have some press releases that you can see on our site. It's very much human-centered, and we try to have a dignity, respect, and fairness, accountability, and transparency, I would say privacy, data governance. So if you'd like to more about that, you can go to Springer Nature site, like what we published. And so we also asked the content providers what issues are addressed in your AI principles and policy statement. So the AI policy statements primarily emphasize transparency and then accountability and quality with a moderate attention to privacy and copyright integrity, while user-oriented and educational aspects receive comparatively less focus, as you can see. And the next one, we also asked the content providers, what does your organization explicitly disallow web crawlers? So most organizations either disallow AI crawlers, 34.6%, as you see, or both types, while a significant portion either allow crawlers or unsure of the policy. Disallowing only web search crawlers is not practiced, it seems. And I think this is the last one. The areas where NISO ODI should foster transparency. So the responders prioritize transparency around the content summarization, AI training usage, and attribution, followed by discovery layer, AI features, usage reporting, and ranking. I'm not going to read the entire thing. That's a lot. Okay, and I'll come to the conclusion. I'm right on time, right? Okay. Discussions and recommendations. So generative artificial intelligence is a library research context. As in a broader society, it remains a somewhat divided topic, actually. The survey results indicates that respondents recognize significant opportunities for AI while also expressing there are always a concern, right, about its potential negative impacts on the library discovery. So the ranking for the hopes and fears, librarians and content providers were asked to rank to set the characteristics, hopes, and fears included in the survey. While lists overlapped, they are tailored to reflect ODI's understanding of the issues, considered most pressing, both positive and negative for each group. And here you can see the tags that apply to the hopes and hopes comments. Both the librarians and content providers see accurate content recommendations, improved visibility and content discoverability as a key hopes. The main fear is revolve around the misrepresentation of the content, and especially the copyright issues, with the libraries also noting environmental implications, responses that indicate general optimism, tempered by concerns and about reliability, legal issues, and sustainability. The next one is the biggest concern about AI-enabled discovery. Regardless of whether you use or provide AI-powered tools for discovery, what is your biggest hope for AI-enabled discovery and why? So the responders primarily concerned center on research integrity and the health of the discovery ecosystem, with the additional attention to AI literacy and internal operations impacts. This highlights the importance of ensuring AI tools are accurate, transparent, and well integrated into the library workflows. These are some fears. As you can see, AI-enabled cluster into the main focus areas are research integrity, AI literacy, discovery ecosystem, and also back of house, so which is operational and organizational challenges that includes the staff workload and cost and adoption speed and job security. The fears that emphasize the need for accuracy, transparency, skill development, and ethical practices and operational readiness when implementing the AI in discovery. Okay, and these are the parts of the previous slide. You can read. And the next one, finally, what is your budget concern about the AI discovery and why? So the respondents primarily concern focus on research integrity and overall discovery ecosystem with additional attention to the AI literacy and operational impacts. So this suggests that effective AI implementation should prioritize accuracy, transparency, usability, and workflow integration. So the discussions here, the ODI generative AI survey shows the librarians, content providers, and discovery service vendors are very interested in the AI, but they are also super cautious about it. And so they think the AI can make it easier to find content, make search results more relevant, and save time. When it comes to content providers like us, publishers, the AI to improve and reliably, we also improving the metadata and then automating the task, but also we kind of worry about the copyright and transparency and control over our content. And when it comes to librarians, they hope AI will give users more personalized experience and reduce the staff work, which may concern some libraries. Overall, everyone agrees AI is potential. Whether you agree or not, AI is going to come, and you have to accept it. And, but clear rules and ethical guidelines are needed. This is the last slide. So the key recommendations for the using the AI responsibility in discovery is create guidelines. Okay, this is the important slide. Work together and be transparent and protect the content. I'm talking about the publisher perspective, and keep metadata accurate, and watch and learn. Okay? I'm going to end with something good. Okay, it is good to have hope, and it is good to have fear. That's what makes us human, right? No matter how many AI-generated tools emerge, please stay human. And make eye contact, and connect with each other, and show empathy for others. Stay human. And thank you for listening, and enjoy the rest of the session. And I'm going to hand over to Ken.
All right, thank you, Bobby. If things work right, I hope to show you what you told us, and if they don't, ooh, it already didn't. How about that? There we go. So while I hope that this loads, and let me get out of full screen mode and try to put this exciting Qualtrics report that is doing nothing but spin. While the internet was working briefly, I got the data here. So you collectively, I just gave a rough count, so about 80-ish people in the room, which is wonderful. We got about 36 responses to the survey, so 50% almost. That's great. 78% of you said you were librarians. 17% said you represented content providers, and 6% were other, and nobody owned up to being a discovery provider. Has this? No, it hasn't. So use, just over half of you have used something like ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot in the last week, at least a few times a week. And then only about 3% of you have never used it. Hopes, it was a nice tier. I know I really wish I could show you the thing that's not there. But out of the 36, you could, of course, pick multiple things, but 32 people, which is the most, said let users find the right content. 26 summarize content accurately, and then trailing off from there. Of the options that you picked as being positive, the one that was, of the 36 answers, 50% of the responses said that letting users find the right content was the most bestest thing that we can hope for. The concerns, and this is the worst display screen ever, very uniform. I know you can't tell what it is, but the numbers are all about the same, ranging from 33 to 20. So many of you have many concerns. I am not surprised. I have many concerns as well. But of those, the one that wins hand and shoulders above everything else, again, it's pretty obvious, is misrepresentation or fabrication of content. Also, I don't think that is particularly surprising. I wish that I could, someday. Where did, I just love doing things on the fly. Nope. Nope. Maybe? That's the way. I will just ignore the slides for a minute. There's only a couple left. So, anyway, it's time for you to ask questions like, why can't Ken run a slideshow? There are microphones. If you, Kianda will happily pass the mic to anybody. Comments, responses?
Hi, I'm Athena Hepner from the University of Central Florida, and it seems like AI is changing so quickly. So what have you seen change, if anything, in the last year since you did the survey, and how the discovery services are embedding AI and how the technology works?
Yes, Athena, as you know, change is rampant, and I think we have a year-old survey on this is decades old in internet years. But I was interested that the things that you've said are not out of line with what we learned in the survey. So at least the optimism and the pessimism are still there. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, but the concerns are still there, which says to me that we collectively haven't done a great job at assuaging the concerns, at least. I'm not sure if we don't want to assuage optimism. That would be bad. I think that the speed that vendors are experimenting, often experimenting in public, and that libraries are poking around and finding things, I think that I would go back to ODI and say this is a great opportunity for us, and we're starting to see to take advantage of this and to build some programming around this to enhance transparency, to enhance at least understanding of what the heck this stuff is doing. I am not an expert by any means, and I suspect there are many experts in the room, but I think there's a terrific opportunity to, well, I don't think that we can set rules, and that's not our purpose, but to allow conversations and to allow some understanding of when a vendor offers a product of some kind, what is actually happening a little bit under the hood. I don't expect to understand the LLM because they're inherently ununderstandable. But how are they using it? What are they intending out of it? And then for us on the library side, setting some strategies, some guidelines, some rules, practices for ourselves as an industry or for our own units, institutions, about what we can do, what we want to do, and where is do we have any red lines? Is it a whole series of lightly gray lines from horizon to horizon? I don't know, but I hope we can, at ODI, we can help foster some of those conversations. I just said a whole lot, and I'm sure most of it was not controversial, but...
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, when it comes to content providers, and we are also exploring and working internally, I cannot share many things, definitely. And I also work with the external vendors, like Discovery Services, EBSCO, ProQuest, OCLC, and Exlibris. And I try to identify what are the areas they're working on, how I can collaborate with them when it comes to AI. And yeah, if you notice, like one of the vendor, they have started exploring using the mark record, AI-generated mark records, and then getting the full text content from us. And we also try to indicate our AI-generated content as part of the metadata. Yeah, like submitted a few case studies, It's like early stage, and I cannot, once it's going to be, we have a press release, and you'll see it on the pages, yeah. Thank you. But we are closely working with the external vendors to collaborate, yeah, explore.
Other questions, comments?
Hello. I'm QMass Bowling. I'm the Publications Director at SciAM, which is the Society for Industrial and Applied Mathematics. And obviously there's massive potential for discovery with Gen AI, but one concern I have is how we demonstrate value to librarians. So I'm sure we've all used the Google AI summaries, and we often never even click through to the sites, and we kind of get our answer already at the first page. And so my concern with the Gen AI discovery tools is if that gives the end user, the faculty member, the answer they want already, they never click through to read a journal article or read an ebook chapter. We don't get the counter downloads. We don't get any measurable, usage of the resource. How do I demonstrate that value to our library customers and say, look, you should carry on subscribing to the great SciAM journals, great publications, if the usage is kind of in this gray area? And I know there are people working on that, but it's unclear to me how we're really going to get that connection between the Gen AI output and what is underlying that result. Thank you.
I'll just start and say I don't have an answer to that. However, I think organizations like ODI, where you see discovery folks, content provider folks, and librarians talking to each other to try to make things apparent to each other, to your concern, I think and the relationship building is really important. So while I agree with you. I'm nodding. I see lots of nods in the audience and don't have an answer. I think that we are going to have to work with each other as customers, as vendors, together with that, because it is a really important question, because it's they're bypassing us, and we don't want that. And yeah, discovery providers that provide this Gen AI functionality have to talk with us and realize that.
And I'll just say that is an excellent question, and one I hope we can get ODI to take up, and I hope that I will see you in line to volunteer. We have a question here, and then one on the right.
I actually have a response to the question. Hi, my name's Sarah Falcon. I work at Wiley. And I have two things. One, I do qualitative research for Wiley. And what we found from a lot of our research is that academics are still going to primary sources because they don't trust the AI tools, that they're giving them accurate content. We're also finding that we recently did a survey called Explanations, and we found the same thing, that academics are still going because they want to go to the primary source and actually review that content because they don't trust that they're getting the correct thing. We had some data analytics done as well on our usage traffic, and what we found is the users that are going and coming and sitting on the site for a short amount of time and then leaving and never coming back, those are dropping off dramatically. right? So it looks like less people are coming, but the people who come and stay on the site are actually staying the same or increasing slightly. So what we're losing is the traffic from the users who aren't actually engaging with the content. So if you think about it, someone goes on Google and they look up something and they're like, oh, that's not what I want. Those are dropping off. The people who are actually coming to stay on those journal sites, we're maintaining or rising. So I do think in that case, it seems scary, but it may not actually be as scary for the people that we're really trying to reach. Does that make sense? The other thing I will plug is Wiley does have a new product that we're beta testing right now. You can sign up for it. It's called the AI Gateway. And what it does is it allows you to use your Claude subscription and connect to scholarly content that Wiley provides. So you can test that out and see if that also gives you access. So what it'll do is you can ask for it to give any response with a DOI and citation link. And so researchers can use that now to get a summarized response and then all of the citations directly. If they have access through their subscription to that content, they can go and download the full text article and use that and kind of have that PDF for themselves.
I think we have time for just one last question.
My name's Lisa. I'm an academic librarian. I work in the for-profit academic library industry, for-profit university. My company actually owns 4 online universities. My question is, who's monitoring the hallucinations that AI is generating and what's being done about that? I work with Masters of Science and Nursing students and doctoral students who are generating, they're coming to the library, their faculty are coming to the library because they're citing sources that do not exist. Obviously, their academic integrity is then called into question. But because it's for profit, there isn't a lot. It's mostly hand smacking, because as long as they're paying, that's fine. So I want to know, how do we, right, especially in a world where misinformation and disinformation is being applauded, what's being done about the hallucinations so that people realize that this isn't even a real resource that they're citing?
Excellent question, and as shown by what you all collectively said in the previous round, fabricated misrepresentation of content is a huge concern. I know I can assume that the companies that are building these AI tools would prefer that they not be maligned for being wrong. So I think there's an economic incentive on the creator side. There is certainly, and it's incredibly important on the library side, that tool, for me, and this is me speaking not on behalf of ODI, but I would have a hard time supporting a tool that wasn't carefully tuned to not make stuff up. And that, I think that's the floor. I wouldn't buy a newspaper that, any source that was randomly wrong. How we handle that collectively, I don't have any great, talking, communicating, and developing some best practices guidelines, I think is a good start. All right, well, thank you very much on behalf of my co-presenters and myself. Thank you for coming. We will be here for a few minutes if you have other questions, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon in the conference. Thank you.